Hello. This video is going to be about how the money, how the wealth, net assets, and so on and so forth is divided up in the United States. It's going to be divided up by family units. Okay, to start off with, I decided to use the double flag. Gave 100 stars. 100 stars to represent 100%. So each star is approximately in the neighborhood of 1 to 1.5 million people. Income, money coming in, wages, salary, bonuses, probably retirement, pension, social security, payouts, and so on. This is the top 10% versus the lower 90% of families. And in this comparison, you can see the top 10% has 37% of the total income. And also looking at the top 1% versus the bottom 90%. You see that top 1% has more than a quarter of the total income. Think, okay, it's common sense. Rich people make a lot of money. It's what you would expect. Okay, now wealth. That's a much murkier definition. Basically, it's what your stuff is worth. Of course, what your house is worth is open to interpretation. Same thing with your vehicle. Uh, Things such as loans, stocks, stock options. It's quite variable. So, going by how the U.S. Census Bureau does it, you can see that the bottom 80% only has 4% of the total wealth. That 4% is quite considerable. I mean, considering that we don't have millions of people starving in the streets. But still, 4% is 4%. Of course, given so many variables, I decided to include another study. This is an independent study by two researchers out of Harvard and Duke universities. The results of this study shows a better picture. Instead of 4%, the bottom 80 percentile has 11.4% of the wealth at their disposal. So the differences between these two studies and other studies out there is that the definitions of wealth vary. But one thing that is true is the economic imparity is greater for wealth than for income. The difference is greater. There is a couple of things that can be taken from this information. Well, one thing is, it's clear to me that the more top-heavy an economy is, the less stable a nation is. The economy of a nation is a big factor in how happy people are or how unhappy they are. Recent events, these countries here. Some wanted democracy, some were fed up with a dictatorship. Some of them don't trust the monarchy. But what they did have in common, they had a lot of poor people who are already struggling. And with these economic downturns coupled with rising food prices, they got their fill. They got desperate. So they finally got to, you know, we're angry and we're not going to take it anymore. So they took to the streets. And if you go back to these earlier revolutions, all these countries here, they had also in common a common thread. They had a lot of peasants, serfs, tenant farmers, campesinos, various agricultural people, various names. Now they were all rebelling against real or perceived economic inequalities. Okay, now the conservatives, of course, are going to start turning blue and red in the face and say, hey, take a chill pill. All I'm saying is that the situation is less stable. We're not, in a bad way in this country. We don't have millions of people starving in the streets. There are millions of homeless, but very few people are, starving to death. We don't have vast slums. Okay, another thing is this is a consumer-driven economy. It's, the rich can only buy so much. It's everybody else that is the main factor. So if we got 11.4% of the total wealth, well, we can only do so much with that. If it was greater, if it was double, then we could buy more goods, more services. I mean, as an environmentalist, I do have some problems with that, but unfortunately, that is the economy we have. So if more was down there, then the more you have to play around with. So that's all I have to say on this.